Hey guys, it's Nick Zavala, brand president of American Home Contractors here on the AHC podcast. Here today with special guest Tom Basch with Infinity Home Services. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Tom, what do you do? What do you do with IHS?
It's a great question. I look for great companies like American Home Contractors to join Infinity Home Services.
So AHC was the fifth acquisition. We've got 25 now brands on board. Tell me why acquisition is a key part of the strategy, or the strategy that IHS is kind of moving forward with, and how things are heating up in, I guess, in the roofing space, or where things are at.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say it's a piece of the strategy, right? There's organic growth, the growth of your brand, which continues to do really well. Inorganic growth, which is those partnerships that we make. So it's a multi-pronged approach, right, to growing and elevating. We also, there are brands that participate in, greenfielding new opportunities, so moving into new markets. And then, partnerships is a great opportunity to, not only expand our footprint and continue our vision of saving our communities from unscrupulous contractors, but also allows us to partner with really good people, really good employees, really good branding. So some of these companies we partner with have been in market and for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so they've built a really strong reputation in that market. Their customers trust them, their community trusts them. And so it's a great way for us to continue to expand our footprint across North America.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. And there's been some awesome acquisitions over the past year. Let me tell you, some real powerhouse brands that,
Yeah.
we got to come together. What was it now? Like a month and a half ago, give or
Yeah.
take, the SLS, the Senior Leadership Summit, and we were able to get in a room with the leadership teams from all the brands, including, G Fidel, who came aboard like a day or day
Yeah.
of the event. They came on board, and Adam actually got up front and was presenting to the group on best practices for his business, and it was
hmm
just incredible. But yeah, I think that it's a key part of what we're doing, and we're happy that we were able to partner with IHS. Um, cool. I'm going to go to the next question. So when you're looking to acquire a business or partner with somebody, what are the things that you guys look for in a business?
Yeah. Great question. Like I mentioned, first and foremost, we want to find good people, right? So that's that's a huge component of it is, in that initial conversation, um, we want to make sure there's a good cultural fit there, right? And some of those things are like, do you care about your employees? Do you care about your customers? Care about your community, right? So we want to make sure that there's alignment there. Second, we're hyper focused on roofing, and of that, residential retail roofing is really important to us. So we want to see, a strong proportion of their work related to residential retail roofing. And then there's other metrics, along with that, like, profitability and, um, marketing spend, just things that dive into sort of the numbers of the business. But really, like I said, the most important thing for us is, do they fit us culturally? Are we aligned to there? And then, from a business perspective, are they focused on the core areas where we believe we can add, the most value to that business?
Sure. Awesome. Follow-up question. So what's the biggest benefit for a brand or a company to partner with IHS? A smaller to mid-sized company. What's the biggest value add that partnering adds?
Yeah, so I read something cool the other day. A company called Wiz
Oh yeah,
was acquired, right? And for like $32 billion, I
I think it
think
was
was,
Google's biggest acquisition to date.
yeah,
32 billion.
$32 billion. And so I read the write up from the CEO of Wiz, and it was really cool. And he mentioned, like, it's not, it wasn't an exit or anything like that. Like, it was an opportunity to strap a rocket to their back. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's really cool, because when business owners partner with IHS, what you're really doing is strapping that rocket to the back of the business and allowing them to continue to grow at a rate quicker and faster probably than they were going to do on their own. So that's a big benefit, right? And again, we focus on making partnerships, not an acquisition, where, we really want to partner with that business, the people, the culture, all of that. And Where was I going with that?
I don't know,
What was the
but
question?
the question was based on like what's the biggest benefit or
Oh yeah,
what's
okay.
the
I'll
value
keep
add of
going. Yeah, yeah.
partnering with IHS, like for like these mid-sized, larger, small companies. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's different. Like, is
Yeah.
it different? Like the value add?
Um, so the value add, it depends. It's different for every business, right? And there's a lot of reasons why a business owner wants to partner with us. For some, it's an opportunity to take some chips off the table, right? Their entire net worth is in that business that they've built for the last, again, 20, 30, 40 years, however long it's been. So it gives them an opportunity to take some chips off the table, which is great. The second thing is typically, the second thing I'll say is it's an opportunity for their employees to continue to gain sort of upward mobility if they'd like within the business. So, if you're a business that's operated in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're just that's where you're doing business, you may not have all the opportunities that exist within a larger organization that has multiple brands, multiple locations, and has more needs than maybe a small roofing company in a town. And so, we have a lot of examples at IHS where folks have moved from maybe a brand to a regional role or to a central role. So those all exist too. So that's another reason why, businesses look to partner with IHS. And then the third one I'd say is, again, they're looking to grow the business. They're tend to be like the owners taking the business to as far as maybe they can do on their own. They're not really sure how to unlock that next layer. In my experience, typically what I see is there's like these gaps or hurdles that you have to overcome. And it's like from 0 to 2 million, and then 2 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and then 20 to 50. And there's different hurdles, and you need different teams and structures and processes and systems in place. And oftentimes the owner is sort of the limiting factor in the growth of that business. And so that's another reason why they'll look to partner with a company like IHS.
Yeah, totally agree. And interestingly enough, I can speak for American Home Contractors. We did have the ability to take some chips off the table for some of the ownership group. Our founder, he got to retire. Other people in the business have gotten to move up,
Yeah.
myself being one of them. So we've gotten to benefit across the board, and we've doubled our revenue and been able to take more homeowners out of harm's way, which is a super
Yeah.
superpower.
That's why we're doing this.
It's why we're doing this thing. Like why we wake up every day.
Yeah.
I jump out of bed every day, just excited to get here. I'm a morning person, and it gets me going. But going back to your point on Wiz, it was like interesting because they were trying to decide, I think, what strategy they wanted to go with. Was it IPO? Was it be acquired? I think Google had offered a smaller amount prior, and then they were thinking the IPO route. I remember reading an article late last year, early this year, somewhere around that time, and they were like 90 something percent, most likely to IPO, and then boom, here comes Google again and acquired them for 32, and it is like strapping a rocket and really getting you going. It was for us, and it continues to be. So
Yeah.
just wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I hear from owners too is like, well, what's going to change, or how, right? We may be on an introductory call where we're kind of learning about each other. And it's like, okay, like how am I going to grow? And that's a really hard thing for me to come in on an intro call and say, hey, you're gonna do these 4 things, right? Because we don't know. Every business is different in how they are going to unlock that next layer. And so we like to create a value creation plan on how we can help that business grow. But we're not naive to think that like we know their business better than they do because they've built a really successful business. And we just want to come in and layer in, additional components to give them access to things that maybe they didn't have access to before.
Sure, like data clarity, stay ahead of the tech, CRM, etc.
Yeah.
Can you share a success story with a recent acquisition that you've had, kind of highlighting what we just talked about, and how did you make things work for them? Because it's obviously a big decision. You spend years building a business, but yeah, can you share a success story for us?
I'm gonna flip the script on you and put down my Uno reverse card.
Oh, wait! I think I read you can't like double the reverse. So I'm kind of stuck here.
Why don't you share with everybody, what the experience has been with American Home Contractors and where you've gained the most value?
You see, he's flipped the script. We're trading roles. I'm happy to do so though. So we got we partnered with IHS almost 3 years ago, fifth acquisition. When I came on board to AHC 7 years ago, I was very vocal, super clear that one day I wanted to either own the business or open a branch, some sort of ownership role, and I was going to do whatever it took to get there, learn every part of the business. I came from a background of carpentry, framing, finished carpentry. I came from that side of things, then got into roofing because one of my best friends, and funny enough, he brought me here. He left, and I brought him back about a month ago, so it's come full
That's great.
circle. But learn the business. I was told, about a month before, or like in the middle of diligence, like, hey, this is likely going to happen. My first thought was like, oh, like I want to own the business,
Yeah,
somebody else is going
sure.
to partner and own it. But it actually accelerated everything forward. It taught me, I've been able to learn, leadership skills that I probably wouldn't have or had to learn the hard way, become much more data driven. And, from day one, they said, really, not much is going to change. In the back of my head, I was like, I don't really think that's true. And then here we are today. Things have changed, but not in terms of how we operate. We operate independently. We just got the support. We've got the financial backing. We've got people to bounce ideas off of other brands. So it's like our peers and leaders from the central team that we have access to.
Yeah.
We have a full suite of operations support, marketing support, leadership support, M&A, so on and so forth. And it's really just helped accelerate our business and have what we have here today. We've got Charles and Javier here, so we've got a full-fledged marketing and content team in-house. We've got a full-blown solar team. Like, we've been able to really, really build a good brand. We actually rebranded after acquisition. And, we've got the logo that you see here. We've gone through 3 iterations of logos over 39 years in business. Wow. So, yeah, it's really been great. I know I'm like trying to think of something to maybe throw things off. So it's
No, this is great. And in all honesty, the reason I flipped that question onto you is because I tell people all the time, hey, here's, what we've seen, here's what works, here's this and that. But what other folks on the other side want to hear is from the actual contractors that are in the businesses. Like, what what has it meant to you? What has it been like? So whenever, we're at a lot of shows together, whether it's the Hardy Summit or the GIF Wealth Builder or IRE or whatever show we're at, coming away from those, we always hear from other contractors like, oh, I talked to so-and-so and they couldn't stop raving about, the partnership they have with IHS. And so honestly, like, those things are great when peers can talk and hear what it's like. It just means so much more than if I sit there and tell them, hey, here's what, we've seen.
Yeah, you could sit there and talk about
Yeah,
great
it doesn't
IHSs
matter,
all day.
Yeah.
Me too, honestly, at this point. But it seriously, it's been a pleasure. So, Tom, you stay really focused on what's going on in the market with the industry in general, both on the manufacturing, the distribution, the contractor side. We've had some big changes with the election, with the new administration. How do you see the home services industry evolving with those changes, especially highlighting, the tariffs with Mexico and Canada? Can you speak to any of that? Provide some feedback?
Yeah, just at a high level, obviously, like, we're aware of all that and, paying attention to it. There's kind of 2 things in there. One, yes, there's like a lot of uncertainty, which I think is the bigger theme, as opposed to like, specific tariffs and things like that. Because as you know, it's like Monday there's a tariff, Tuesday it's off, Wednesday there's a new tariff, Thursday there's not, Friday that, so there's just a lot of uncertainty. So we're seeing that from a macro level. As far as like from a micro level, like as it relates to, individual markets and brands, not seeing a huge impact from that, other than, again, like I said, there's just that overall kind of uncertainty. And then on the flip side, I'll say there's a ton of interest in this space from private equity groups, and that has and will, I think, continue to help elevate the industry. You see it on distribution has been active for a while on that, right? You saw SRS go through 3 or 4 different capital partners before getting acquired by Home Depot for $18.2 billion. And then just recently you saw QXO
Yep.
come in and acquire Beacon. And meanwhile, Beacon and SRS have both been doing acquisitions of their own right before that. So a lot of, consolidation of the industry. And then you see it on the contractor side as well, right? I think last I heard, there's almost 200 different, private equity groups looking at the roofing space. A lot of them have had a lot of success on the HVAC side, and a lot of consolidation that happened over there over the last 10 years or so. And so there's a lot of interest in roofing. And last I tracked, I posted this on LinkedIn the other day, but there was like 32 or 33 groups on the residential side that had made at least one acquisition of a roofing company. And so there's certainly a ton of interest. People have all kinds of different theses, on where they see the market going and what they want to invest in and where they can add value and those sort of things. So, roofing's very broad, but when you start diving in, you've obviously got residential and commercial, but then you've got retail and insurance. So you've got all these different um, uh, delineations of roofing, and different interests in different sectors. And some even want multiple different exterior sectors or even interior sectors, right? You'll see some where they'll acquire a roofing company who also does kitchens, for example.
Sure.
And so a lot of different groups out there, a lot of different theses. So, and then there are some that are looking for the owner to stay on and continue to, grow and run their brand with support. And then there's others where, it's more of an exit strategy for that owner, where they're looking for that owner who's of retirement age, who wants to, who's ready to exit, and they'll parachute in, some recent MBA grad to run the business. So a lot of different approaches, a lot of different strategies. But overall, I'd say, from a macro level, a little bit of uncertainty right now, with like a new administration and all that. And then on the other side, a lot of consolidation, happening. And so I think, as they say, rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Sure.
I think this is good for the industry. It's going to help professionalize the industry, maybe hopefully get rid of some of those unscrupulous contractors. So I think this is all really positive news as we move forward.
Sure. And we've seen this in waves,
Hmm.
you being in the industry for as long as you have, and I've been in it for quite a while now as well. We see these waves where there's either storm events and, contractors flood the market that may not be scrupulous or unscrupulous, here or there. And, we see them disappear into the night, and then we
Yeah.
have to come in and kind of clear things up. And hopefully we can be upstream of that, and just take more homeowners out of harm's way, because it is a real thing.
Yeah.
We see it every day. And our business is sectioned into, our American Home Contractor specifically is sectioned into 3 categories. We have like our repair, that tune-up program. It's kind of unique to us. We have our full replacements on the exteriors, the roofing, siding, windows, doors, gutters, and then we have our solar division that works with the other 2. And we see the fluctuation across the board there, but we hope that we can service anybody that's in the market for those needs accordingly. For a business owner right now, that's listening and maybe interested in hearing more about what we've been talking about, what's the first step in exploring a partnership with IHS or just learning more? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, if you're listening now and you're interested in this, love to have a conversation. It always starts with that, right? We want to learn more about you as a business owner. Again, I mentioned already, like, how do you think about your employees, your customers? I don't want to, what do they say? Lead the witness.
Yeah.
But we're looking for a good cultural fit, right? And so I've kind of laid that out. But it all starts with that. Let's have a conversation. I talk to some business owners who think, hey, I'm not ready. I'm not going to be ready for another 2, 3, 4 years. And I talk to other ones who are ready now. And both of those have had flip sides of that, where the person who thought they were going to be ready in 2, 3, 4 years is actually more ready now than they thought they were.
Yep.
And the one who thinks they're ready now, maybe they need to do some things to get their business in order, or to be in a better position to do a partnership. But you don't know any of that without a conversation. So happy to talk to any business owner that's interested in exploring what does this mean. Whether it's with IHS or not. We're not we don't partner with everybody. We're I like to say very selective in who we partner with. But let's have a conversation. Visit our website, www.infinityhomeservices.com. There's a nice form fill on there where you can enter in some information, and we'll reach out. Check me out on LinkedIn. Always happy to have a conversation there.
Tom does have great LinkedIn posts, so you can check it out. And we'll also put the link to this in the video.
Awesome. Yeah, I post a lot of content on there to just share some macro level stuff, what's going on, what may be important if you're getting ready to enter a partnership, those sort of things. So also have just a ton of content that I can make available to you.
So, we've come such a long way. We've actually gone through one turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've changed capital partners once now. We got Freeman Spogli and Light Bay Capital, great partners. And, seeing where we've come from, just from when you came on board and looking towards the future, because you've kind of got the looking glass there. What excites you most about our next phase of growth as a platform, like from an IHS level?
I'm just really excited to see where everything's come. Hearing stories about you guys when you're the fifth brand to partner with IHS, and to kind of where we are today, and what we have to look forward to. I mean, we're just continuing to add really strong partners, continuing to add strong leadership, both at the regional level and at the central level, to help support the brands. And then really, I think what is most beneficial is, like you'd mentioned, we do these strategic leadership summits where we get everybody together. And that's really a great opportunity to share best practices and to learn from each other. And there's a lot that can be had from those conversations, even outside of maybe things that are presented on a stage, but it's like, what's talked about at dinner, or what's talked about, at the bar, or whatever it may be. A lot of really good information sharing that happens there. And so you get an opportunity to really see, hey, what's working well in, Washington State or Florida or Canada, right? Like wherever, we've got brands all over the place, and you can learn from them, both good and bad. You'd also mentioned one of the benefits for you is like not having to make mistakes and being able to learn from other people's mistakes, right? And so that's a huge thing, right? Like we may have a brand that really struggled, took on a multifamily project and ended up losing their butt on it. Well, you can learn from their experience and not make those same mistakes or fall into those same pit holes, or potholes. So those are really good opportunities and things that I look forward to, as we continue to grow and we continue to add more brands and partners to the company. We'll be able to have even more experiences and lessons that we can learn from.
Sure. I know one of the things that's really beneficial is just like service line expansion.
Sure.
It's something so simple, or it sounds so simple. It's really hard to execute well, but there's a lot of brands that either only did roofing, or they did roofing and siding, but not gutters, like, that type of thing across the board. But we've got brands that do every piece of the exterior, like excellent.
Yeah.
And, we're able to make a playbook across the country, or teach them how to find a good window installer, how to vet them, how to train your team, how to measure windows, for example. Windows and doors is tough.
Yeah.
We're really fortunate. Our former owner and founder, Steve, he actually owned a window factory at one point. So like windows was drilled into me and to everybody that comes on board. Right off the gate. But come to find out, there's some companies that have been having immense success, doing a ton of projects a year, and they're not even doing, windows or siding. And they've unlocked that opportunity. I think almost every brand here has started offering a new service offering since acquisition or partnership with IHS. And to me, that's just like a huge value add.
Yeah. And again, they get an opportunity to learn from other people of, mistakes maybe they made when they decided to add that. And now they're better off for it because they've been able to learn from those those mistakes or those
I'll
experiences?
tell you what, coming from the production side, mismeasuring or trying to install a window that's the wrong size or getting it in and it's broken or what have you, is very painful up
Yeah.
front. But, now that there's a playbook in place, it's just nice that other people don't have to go through that same pain on a regular basis, I guess.
Yeah, and there's other areas too, like marketing, and a lot of folks will struggle and try to different, marketing tactics, and like, it's another area where they can learn from other businesses as well as, our regional and central team on marketing. There are, the pods that Infinite Exteriors up there does so
Yeah.
well, and like being able to spread that to other brands has been really helpful. So yeah, there's tons of those sort of examples where you're able to lean on the experience of others.
Yeah. No, it's been invaluable, seriously.
So I remember being at a event many years ago with GF. It was maybe one of like their regional expos or something. I was with Hover at the time, and I remember them getting on stage and saying like, you all are here, right? And there may have been like, I don't know, a few hundred people there, right? And like, look around because there's 3,500 roofers in this DFW market. It's like that is a lot of roofing contractors in one market.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are markets that do have those really high concentrations. You tend to see that more in like storm markets. So Denver, Colorado, you can have a ton of roofers there. Dallas Fort Worth, ton of roofers there. Less so when you get into like Western New York, right? Not as many roofing contractors up there, or even like State College, PA, right? Just not as many
Sure.
homes. Boston, ton of roofing contractors there, but also different dynamic. Like the price of a roof in Boston is really expensive. So is the cost of marketing, right? So everything's kind of proportionate there. There are a lot of roofing companies in the DMV, certainly. But yeah, every market's different, really. It depends on, a lot of it comes down to like how many households are there, what can they serve?
Yeah.
A lot of variables there.
Well, it's like the age of the market too. Like how long has it been
Sure.
like a big metro area?
Yep.
Some of these markets that,
Boston's got a lot of old homes.
Yeah.
I think it was something like 80% of their housing inventory is like older than 25 years or something. It's like a lot of their housing stock is really old, so it's always, coming up for replacement.
Yeah. And, that's probably a key question when you're, looking at partnering with brands, like what type of market is it? How do they serve the market? What type of hold they have in that market or control? And yeah.
My disclaimer here is that 96% of stats are made up, so.
Yep. They came from somewhere. It's under here. So how do we as a platform maintain, culture and quality and the things that, we show up to work every day for as we scale as a platform? I think this is a fair question that, even homeowners may want to know and other contractors. How do we maintain that? Yeah, could you?
It's an important question. It really is. Like that's a big thing that we put an emphasis on, and it's why I say one of the first things we do is we want to vet for cultural fit, right? Like we want to make sure that the people that we enter into a partnership with, first of all, that they have a really good culture, because that's if they don't have a good culture, it's going to infect the rest of the platform company, and so it's really important that the short answer is we got to partner with good people, right, that share the same core values that we have.
Sure.
Integrity, hard work, and service.
I like to say exceptional service, but it doesn't go with the,
I like it.
the
I like
acronym.
it. So yeah, I mean, that's how we can maintain that, right? Is making sure that when we make a partnership, we're doing it with the right people. And that's why it's so important to get that right on the offset.
Sure.
Or the onset.
Yeah. No, totally fair. And, I thought about this question because, when we first started, we were ourselves, like a much smaller contractor. But in all fairness and seriousness, I think that our customer experience has gotten better. Our quality and our culture has even gotten better. We've got more resources to do so, but it does take hard work.
Yeah. And I think, one of the ways that we're able to like vet that, right, is to understand from a business, like what happens, or have you had an example or an experience where, and I think just about every company has this, right, where you've got a really well-performing sales rep and this is not to like bash on the sales reps, but like a really well performing sales rep who's like a top performer, but they're toxic to the culture,
Sure.
right? And so like, how do you navigate that as a business owner? And, typically what, again, not to lead the witness here, but like typically what you want is a business owner who's not afraid to let that person go, um, to save the culture, right? Because you don't want to just have somebody in there because they're putting up big numbers, but at the end of the day, they're a cultural vampire. They're sucking the life out of that culture.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that, people that we partner with have that same mentality, that they're not going to put those numbers ahead of the betterment of the team.
Yeah, totally agree.
So how has partnering with IHS impacted your team and employees?
Oh, it's been awesome. So, there's always like that initial like shock to the system. We partnered with the IHS. What does that mean? What's going to change? And then we kind of go along, and the only things that changed were we upgraded our CRM. We got some support on the back end. We did financially, of course. We got help with some of our process. We implemented the pod system. Shout out Infinity Exteriors. We have a pod here in Maryland, and then one in our Virginia location, which has really helped with our production efficiency. We've been able to implement new incentive programs that weren't there before. Gosh, we've been able to promote from within. We now post hiring opportunities for positions that we know that we can offer internally to the team, whether it's a shift from like a customer service rep to maybe an entry-level production position. They've learned the CRM, they've learned about the business, they love the company, and they're looking to really find their place in the company, like for a long-term career. We want to keep people in the ecosystem. And it's really been helpful because we post those internal hiring opportunities first here, then we go external. So it's really changed a lot, opened a lot of doors for our team, and I can speak for myself. Like I started entry level 7 years ago on the production side, and had the opportunity to continue working my way up through the business. And last year took the reins over. From Steve, the founder. So it's been nothing but great support and an awesome opportunity for everybody involved.
Awesome. Number 2.
Was that a good response?
I liked it. That's great.
Good. It is true though. Like it's crazy. Like I keep just going through this scenario in my head and just rethinking how things were before, during, like after, where we're going to be a year from now. Every year I come back to the table and I'm like, man, I didn't know anything last year. And it's like, it's that progression, you're always learning, always growing, and working with somebody that's smarter or working harder or knows something that you don't, or has an angle that you've never thought of before. And how do we keep increasing that experience for the customer? Like, we make little videos that go out with the intro email. We have automated plus, human communication. So we're really, hitting them with as much communication on projects as possible. We're always looking at ways to elevate that experience and getting feedback from 25, excuse me. It's going to be 26. I'm thinking ahead here, really thinking ahead here. Other brands that do it incredibly in their own way, in their own market. Has just been awesome.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. If American Home Contractors didn't make the partnership with IHS, what would somebody like you who may be sitting there really ambitious, number 2, like if American Home Contractors doesn't make that partnership, where do you think you'd be right now?
It's hard to say, it's hard to look back and say, but we certainly wouldn't be sitting where we are right now.
What about you personally?
Personally, man, that's a tough question. I may be sitting in the same seat, kind of spinning my wheels. I certainly wouldn't have the growth opportunities, both, personally, professionally, where I'm expanding my knowledge base, my ability to execute new ideas. Like the new ideas that we'd have for the business would be just what I'm able to come up with on my own with the internal team, and whatever I decide to try and listen to, going to either conferences or events. And quite frankly, I was going to far less of those than I do today, where I get to collaborate with other extremely talented business owners and individuals in the industry. So, I mean, it's like a closed loop.
Yeah.
You're stuck with growing only based off of what you believe you're able to grow at versus seeing what other people can do and just continue raising your expectations of yourself and your team where you can go. Like, it's limitless.
Yeah.
What we can do is limitless. The amount of, last year we installed projects in 10 states. 3-4 years ago, would you have told, if you had said that to me, that, we would have installed in 10 states and done this many projects and helped this many customers and provided this many great experiences and installed this many specialty products like our Tesla solar roofs and whatnot, I wouldn't have been able to hypothesize that or believe that was going to happen. And, coming back full circle, like, I know where we're headed. Our team knows where we're headed. So yeah, like, if partnership hadn't have happened, it's hard to say where we would be at, but we would be nowhere near where we are today. That's for sure.
And one of the reasons I ask you is because when I talk to business owners, sometimes that motivation for them having a call is because they do have folks like you that are sitting there within their company and they're looking for what's next, and there is no next for them in that business. Yeah. And so they're at risk of either losing that employee, right, to somebody else that can offer them, a better opportunity, or they just stagnate, and that, that business ends up actually start stalling, or they plateau and they don't grow any further. And so it's a big motivation for a lot of business owners. They have a number two who's really been helping out in that business, or they have somebody who's motivated to take that next step in their career, and they're looking for how can I provide for that person. So that's a big reason why, aside from like taking some chips off the table and those sort of things, like that's a big motivator for folks that are interested in a partnership, because it does provide more opportunity for employees.
Sure. I think that's almost, one of the top reasons.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to one of the things we were talking about earlier in the show here. What's your legacy going to be? I was talking to another contractor who had questions. I was wearing my IHS hat, like IHS HC, and he recognized the brand, and he had some questions. He's in his 50s. He's been roofing for 45 years or something, just ever since he was, an early teenager. And he was talking about his business, and they do, a decent bit of revenue. And it's like, what's next? It's great you're on this trip, but he's like, there's times where you go through the winter. Mm-hmm. That first quarter of the year in most markets is challenging.
Yeah.
You got cold weather, you can't install. Sales aren't nearly as strong as they are in the spring and summer and fall. And you've got to, you float that cash. Mm-hmm. You've got to, keep your employees employed. You have to be able to pay them. These are all struggles of a small business that roofing contractors go through, and the best, make it. But yeah, when you get to that age and you've got other people that have, trusted you, learned from you, and continued growing the business and growing with you, and they need that next step. They need to continue growing as well.
Yeah.
And then you as the owner, it's like, well, are you going to do this till you die, or are you going to be able to at least pass part of the reins on to the next person in your business? So I think there's a few different or a bunch of different ownership models or people at different phases. I can speak more towards that one just because we had an owner that, he started this business in 1986. He's been super involved, salesman, a very direct manager, and finally, he just had his first grandchild, and it's like, are you going to keep grinding this hard for the next 40 years on top, or take some of those chips off the table and allow room for your team to grow? So I think it's a really important topic to bring up.
Yeah, awesome.
So we have this Tesla mezcal, and we do this little bit here at the end for guests as like a thank you. You get to try the mezcal and give us an honest review. What you think?
Okay.
It's an interesting bottle.
Ooh. Keep the camera stagnant just so the core doesn't fall out again.
Man, this thing's like right. I'm gonna move this, I think, a little out of the way. Do you think you can?
Yeah, you can move it.
Cool. Oh, it still has the thing on it. Oh,
Fancy.
Look how fancy that is.
Wow.
Show it to the camera.
So we just do a little thank you, a little tester. There you go.
Awesome. I think the next thing we need are some American Home Contractor shot glasses.
I agree. It's a challenging bottle, but yeah, thank you for coming aboard on the pod. It's been a fantastic conversation. We appreciate you coming in to hang out with us for a few hours today. And always a great combo with Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Pretty good, right?
That's good.
A little smoky.
Wow. Yeah. I like it.
10 out of 10. You hear it here, folks.